And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back Inside the Law. I'm your host, Philip Holloway. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Today, we have a little bit different kind of a show. This is, I would call it more of a special edition, a little more fun, upbeat, hopefully. We will get into a little law. We're going to get into what to look forward to coming up next week, of course, with the trial of former President Donald Trump as it gets underway tomorrow with opening statements in Manhattan. But first, I wanted to just spend some time because I want to essentially thank everybody for helping me and welcoming me into the LawTube streaming community. And there's no person that is that's been more helpful than my guest, who many of you already know. Eric Hunley is the host of, he's got a number of channels, including America's Untold Stories. He's got Eric Hunley, his page there. There's a Laid Back Law and others. And I'm going to let Eric tell you all about it, but those are all excellent channels as well. And he's one of the people that first sort of welcomed me and sort of helped show me the ropes. So let me go ahead and bring Eric in. Eric, good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing? I saw in your first intro that you're a costume designer.
Well, I don't know that I'm a costume designer, but my career has been multifaceted. But how it got me to this place is kind of remarkable, and you're a big part of that, Eric. And I want to say thank you. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. We have a lot of people, I'm sure, here that are watching that already know you, and maybe there's some that don't. So just briefly tell us what you're doing on YouTube.
I'm an itinerant podcaster turned YouTuber with a face for radio. Go figure. And started off with a podcast in 2018, interviewing people. That became a YouTube show in 2020 because of Chase Hughes, the behavior panel, wanting to have a video. And I told him I didn't do video. We wound up doing a live stream. That went really well. And I thought, oh, this is great. I know big YouTubers like Viva Fry. So next week, I'm going to do Viva Fry. I'm going to have a hugely successful live stream. And nobody showed up.
Uh-oh.
It was a tiny audience. So I got to learn the slog of YouTube. And that has spun into different things. America's Untold Stories was a spinoff after my channel got nuked by YouTube and then restored. And some guy on Twitter started to bust my balls because he didn't like my guests. And that became, of course, a co-host. And then we got taken down because of a copyright dispute. So I rebuilt the channel again. And after I won the copyright dispute, I had that extra channel. And that got turned into Laid Back News and later Laid Back Law.
Well, you certainly got quite the presence. And I'm going to get into this in a few minutes and a little bit of more background about that. But I've actually, and I've told you this, but I don't know that I've publicly said it, but I was a big fan of America's Untold Stories. And that was one of my favorite YouTube shows to watch. And it has been for, quite some time, over a year or more. And, I watched you guys grow and I got into it because I'm a fan of the JFK stuff, right? And that's some of the best, if not the best, JFK assassination content on YouTube. And so that's really what got me hooked. And so when this journey led me to the place where our paths have crossed, it was just a little bit surreal because I never would have imagined that it would have happened this way. You were one of the people. Viva, of course, is one. Others have also been very helpful and inspirational, but I think no one more than you and Viva. So I want to just go ahead and go back in time just a little bit, and I want to share some things with the folks watching right now that document sort of how this happened. And for me to do this, I'm going to turn, if I can do this right, I'm going to turn our cameras off and I'm going to leave our, let's see. I don't know. Maybe you got to turn your own camera off. I wanted to
I can.
All right. So there's that one. I have got my camera stopped.
Right.
Oh, perfect. So back in November of 2023, I had been following Eric on Twitter, and he managed to follow me back at some point. And so I sent him something that was interesting to me regarding the JFK assassination, and that was in November of 2023, and it was just sent by direct message. And Eric didn't know who I was, and so he did not respond to it. However, fast forward to February 28th, 2024, and this is when the Fonny Willis fiasco was really kind of getting underway and picking up a lot of steam. And Viva Fari wound up following me on Twitter, and I followed him back, and so we started a communication here. And then Viva invited me to come on his show. Again, we're talking late February there, and you can see I'm explaining to him that I don't know the first damn thing really about tech questions, including the home studio, and he and he responds to me, "Don't expect good answers. I've been called a boomer many times, but do you want to come in and discuss? We could do sometime during the lunch break." So um, we worked out a time to go on there, and then the next thing you know, then Eric on February 29th, he does get back with me. And because I had mentioned to Viva that I wanted to, at some point, I'd be interested in going on America's Untold Stories, right? So Eric reached out to me for that. And then Nate, the lawyer, reached out. And of course, some of you may have seen on this channel, you can go check it out. There's one of my earlier streams is when Nate joined me, and it was funny because we spent about 10 minutes getting into the show, and I realized that I had not hit the button to go live. And so we had to basically pick it. We were having the best conversation, but nobody saw it. But anyway, that's just part of the journey. Eric, you can go ahead and come back with your camera. And
Right.
thank you. I was trying to turn you off on this end, but I guess I'm not able. But thank you. That way everybody could see it. But that's a little bit of by way of background, sort of how we got here. Eric, did you even know that I had reached out to you last year?
I did not know that or remember it. And to be fair, I don't know if it makes any difference. I was in Dallas at the 60th anniversary of JFK at the time, and I had a lot of incoming messages.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
I don't even remember it. I'm actually gonna have to look at my DMs later to see if I can scroll up and find it, because I was like, okay.
No, it's perfect. I'm of course just teasing you. And so, and look, that was very, very interesting. And there was a lot of things I think that had to come together in, just at the right time to make all this work. And there were, you and Nate and Eva and
Megan Kelly.
Megan Kelly, of
more
course.
than anybody.
Yeah, Megan is one of the ones that also not only inspired but encouraged me to try to go ahead and stick my big toe in the water and see what would happen. And I've got just a few minutes. I want to share. I'm going to share some video. This was my first appearance on America's Untold Stories, and as you'll see, this is right when the Fonny Willis stuff was kicking off, and I just want to share a few minutes of that with you.
Hello, welcome, Phil.
Welcome, Phil.
Hey, happy to be here.
Bro?
How's everybody?
Very good.
All right. Now, Phil is going to help us to kind of keep track of what's going on with Fani, because I have to confess, I watched it a couple of weeks ago when it was going down, and her testimony, I really listened to it. So statement analysis wise, I was like, this is if somebody was to cover her testimony with statement analysis, it would be a 10-hour video, because they'd be stopping every 10 seconds on, oh, that's deceptive, and this is why. But Phil got actual physical evidence presented that directly contradicts statements made by her and Nathan Wade. So we could talk about body language all day and statement analysis, but boy, physical evidence is always a good thing. And Phil here is the one who provided these texts to Megyn Kelly. Yes, day before yesterday.
Yeah, day before. It's like drinking from a fire hose. That's hard for me to figure out what day it is, but that's right.
Okay.
Phil, tell the audience who you are in case they don't know who you are.
So I'm Phil Holloway. I'm a lawyer in the Metro Atlanta area. In fact, in Cobb County, which is next door to Fulton County, where all this is going on. But interestingly enough, a lot of the players involved in this are people that have offices and a big presence in Cobb County as well. And and lawyers around here, we all hit all the courthouses, so it's a relatively small legal community, at least in terms of criminal law. And so I know a lot of these folks personally. And obviously when we found out that this was going to be, the case of the century, and it was going to be right here in our backyard, most people, started paying very, very close attention, myself included. And then lo and behold, people that I know start getting hired by this defendant or that defendant, and suddenly it all becomes real or almost surreal. But to be honest with you, I've always had my concerns about, prosecuting the head of the opposing party, right? When you're talking about bringing a political prosecution or a criminal prosecution that looks like a political prosecution for, improper reasons. And this is not about Donald Trump, regardless of how anybody feels about Trump. This is about a fair system. You've got to have a fair system. And if you don't have a fair system, you can't even get to the issue of guilt or innocence, because you've got to have due process, fundamental fairness. That's what this is all about. But I started as a prosecutor in the metropolitan Atlanta area in Cobb County. So I've been on that side. I've been in private practice now since 2003. And I'm kind of really, really almost a little bit embarrassed to see what's happening in the legal community in my town.
I would be.
This is like the days of our lives.
It is a soap opera, because the way you described it earlier, everybody knows everybody, and this is like a cast. So this could be a season of a show when you have Nathan Wade, who's having sex with the main prosecutor, and this is going on. Fulton County brought you into this current situation?
Can you be more specific? Which situation are we referring to? Because I've been dealing with, I have a big media presence. I go on national TV, local radio, national radio. I'm a legal analyst for a news station here. So I've been talking about this in a lot of different contexts, but here lately it's really, really, really gotten off the chain. And honestly, it's one of the more interesting criminal cases that I've dealt with. And I'm glad I'm glad that I'm in the press box calling the plays versus on the field. These lawyers are doing a great job, but I'd rather be talking about it, to be honest with you.
Hold on. You're talking about the case against Trump or this?
Yeah, this particular case.
The case, not this hearing. You're talking about the overall case.
Yeah, the overall case, and in this hearing too. These lawyers have their work cut out for them. Like I said, I like my role being on the outside looking in, but it sure is fascinating.
But you're in the loop, Phil. Apparently, they're texting you, and you're able to understand what people.
I know a lot of the players. I know a lot of the lawyers. I know some of the defendants, for that matter. Because there's local attorneys that are caught up in this and local political types that are caught up in it. So, you can't really, in my position as a lawyer in the metropolitan Atlanta area, been here, I've been practicing law almost 30 years, been here since 2000. So it's 24 years. I know a lot of these folks, and I've even gotten to know some of the lawyers that are from out of state that are participating in this. And so, we hear things. And so, it's interesting to sort of see what's on the other side of the stage door, right? Behind the curtains. A lot of us in the legal community have kind of known that, Fonny Willis and Nathan Wade were kind of an item. And so when I first learned that he was like the lead special prosecutor, it's like, it's a head scratcher here. What's this all about? It just kind of didn't make sense. And now it's all starting to come together. This is nothing I had personal knowledge of, but it's one of those kind of one of the rumors that you hear that you figure it's probably true, but you don't really pay much attention. And of course, we did find out, yes, it was true. That was to me, Eric, that was actually a very fun interview, and I really enjoyed being able to come on and talk with you and Mark that day.
Cool.
And it's watching it, and I watched it earlier today, and it made me think. I was talking in that video. I mentioned that I had gotten to know some of the lawyers from out of state. Well, fast forward to just earlier, I guess this month, or maybe it was late March, I had Chris Katcheroff, who is an out-of-state lawyer. He's one of the people I was referring to in my interview with you, and he's been now a guest on this show. We did a live stream about his representation of his client in the Fulton County RICO case and the appeal that he got going. I've had Ashley Merchant on here now, and of course, she's one of the people that I was referring to. And and just look at the what's the surroundings where I am. I now have a little bit better tech setup, and I've made a lot of progress. I still have a long ways to go, but thanks to you and others, I think we've been able to do a lot with this channel.
Yeah, I think you're doing quite well. You're exploding. I mean,
well, as of a couple of days ago, we went over 25,000 subscribers. And by the way, for those of you who are watching or perhaps in the chat room, if you haven't subscribed, please do, and make sure you grab a couple of other people and get them to subscribe too, because my next goal is 30,000. One day, maybe I'll be grown up like Eric, but for the time being, I think we're doing great, and I'm very happy with how far things have come, and I'm very, very grateful. We have 532 people in here. If y'all would all just hit the like button, that will, of course, help. And every little bit does help. Eric, tell us what it is. What was your secret to success as far as helping your YouTube channels grow to be as successful as they are?
Secret, partner with Mark. No, that's a good one for America's Untold. There's no one particular secret other than perseverance in a lot of ways. And no matter what, it's still a struggle to know what's going to work, what's not going to work. I would say that, no joking aside, relationships have been a very important factor to me. Being friends with Nate the lawyer, David, Viva Fry, and everybody on the behavior panel, Spidey, behavioral arts, and on and on and on, and just being in the community. I think that has helped a great deal. And I just try to put out as good of a content I can for whatever I'm doing, be it a legal panel on a Friday, which is always going to be an odd situation since I'm the only non-lawyer most of the time, unless Chandler's there, and then she's at least a paralegal. I'm just I guess I'm the audience representation that maybe I could be a jury member, and that would be my stance.
Oh, I mean, I think there's a lot of people probably are surprised to learn that you're not a lawyer, because you certainly are as educated as a layperson any I know. I'm going to turn my banner off real quick, and over Eric's left shoulder, you can see a sign for Laid Back Law. That's one of the channels every Friday, and I've been on there a few times. It's always a very fun discussion, Fridays at 12. And if you haven't checked it out, please do so, because it is what it's described to be. It's laid back law. It's just a bunch of lawyers shooting the breeze, talking legalities about whatever the news is of the day, which of course works and fits nicely with what I do here, which is of course trying to bring the viewer, the listener, the subscriber into the real criminal justice system, not just what we think we have from watching television or the news, but we want to show you the good things and the bad things and the things that might not be so great. And when the lawyers get together on Friday, like we did just this past Friday, this is what we talk about. And so it's a great, it dovetails nicely with this show, and there's some crossover. The chat's moving pretty fast, but I saw a comment a few minutes ago. I was unable to flag it, but someone was mentioning that it's the crossover between some of these channels that they like, and another person was talking about how, you know, folks like you and Nate, Viva, and others, and it's we don't really, it's not a competition. Everybody tries to help each other and lift each other up into, you know, we cross pollinate, if you will. Just like you're coming on my show right now, and I was on yours the other day, and we do Viva, and you know, there's you never know where you're going to catch us, which channel, and so there's like this camaraderie, and it's been very interesting and quite frankly very rewarding for me to be a part of. So thank you for that. But by all means, folks, check out some of those shows. That Laid Back Law, if you know, is really a good legal show. Like, you know, here you go. Murph apparently watched Friday, said it was a great show. You know, it's just absolutely one of the best around. So thank you for letting me be a small part of it. Do you have any public advice that you would give to somebody like me that you haven't given me privately already? Or is there anything that I haven't asked you, because I ask you a lot, but what else do I need to know?
In terms of what, if you wanted to be a YouTuber, podcaster, is it from that angle? Like somebody in the audience might want to start their own show? Because I have a very simple line for that one, which is, if you're going to start a show, be it a podcast or YouTube, make sure you are covering something that you would cover for free, because you will.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, cover the thing that you bug all your relatives with. Cover the thing that your wife will be so happy that you're doing the show and have an outlet so she doesn't have to listen to you talk about it for a while. That is the kind of topic or subject you really need to do, because this is not just let's go chill and have a good time and I'll just go talk about the, you know, whatever to the camera. That doesn't really work well. So you have to have something you're absolutely passionate about, because your satisfaction and fulfillment is most likely just going to be from the ability to share on the subject versus monetary returns. Well,
that's good advice. And I think that, you know, other people have said things very, very similar. It's the content that is the key. It's, you know, if you can do socials really well, but if you don't have good content, the socials, you know, don't matter. Part of what I had described this show to be is an Ask Me Anything. And so for those of you who are here in the chat, feel free, ask me anything about this or anything else that you want to ask, and I'll try my best to answer as many of those questions as I can. Eric and I are going to talk in a few minutes about what's going on, what we expect to come up next week in the Donald Trump case. But before I forget, regarding the chat, I want to hear what you got to say. If you disagree with me, or you agree, or you have something you want to say to Eric, you know, let us hear from you, because this is part of why, I mean, this is one of the most enjoyable parts of this to me, is engaging with people in the chat, in the live stream. So I want to hear what people have to say, whether they like what I'm saying, whether they agree with me, or even if they disagree with me. I'm a big supporter of free speech, and that includes this particular place and this channel. So one thing that will help them,
though, by the way, Phil, this will help you. If you have a specific question, just so we know that it's coming our direction versus to each other, can you just say Q or question or flag it in some way so we know it's a question? Because that can get confusing on the chat.
No, it does. And I notice that's how, when you host, that's how you do it, particularly with your show with Mark. Absolutely. Someone had mentioned, had we heard about, there it is. Did we hear that Michael Avanatti is willing to testify for Trump in his New York case? And I know you got some thoughts on that. So now might be a good time to at least sort of segue over into that. And before we get to the details on that, I wanted to, let's see, I want to see if I can bring up another. Let's see, remove from the studio. All right. I want to share this piece of news. All right. So, more than happy to testify. Michael Avanatti says he's in contact with the Trump defense team. And it goes on to say that the previous attorney for former porn star Stormy Daniels reportedly says he's been in contact with presumptive 2024 Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's legal defense team. Avanatti told the Post from Terminal Island, where he's in prison in Los Angeles, serving 19 years for an array of crimes, including extortion, tax evasion, fraud, embezzlement, and other crimes, that he would be more than happy to testify in Alvin Bragg's trial against Trump. He goes on to say, the defense has contacted me. I'd be more than happy to testify. I don't know that I will be called, but I've been in touch with Trump's defense for the better part of a year. Now, I've got some thoughts on that. I know you've got some thoughts from that. So, Eric, what do you think?
You know, some people you don't really want to have on your side. I'm sorry. I'm just like, does he really benefit getting that scumbag to testify for him? I don't know. I guess there could be value in that, but I'm just like, this guy, the association is really, really ugly. And, you know, Trump's already painted with this brush. Getting Avenatti on the stand, it's like, great. Why not have Michael Cohen too?
Well, I mean, it's weird because you've got Avanatti, who used to represent Stormy Daniels, and so now he's talking about maybe testifying for Trump, as opposed to Trump's own former lawyer who's testifying for the other side. And both of these disgraced ex-lawyers have of course been disbarred, but if Avanatti, of course, is in prison, Cohen went to prison. You know, they both could be, well, Cohen is actively seeking a pardon from the Biden administration right now. That's a pinned tweet on his Twitter page. He wants to get a pardon. And you got to wonder if Avanatti comes and testifies for Trump, first off, can you trust him to say what he tells you he's going to say, or is he going to say the complete opposite? Because both of these guys have been all over the place. They've not said the same thing. I think, twice. It's like they both have said things supportive and not supportive of Trump and everything else. And so we just don't know what he's going to say. And the other piece of that is, even if he
could be sandbagged. Absolutely.
And even if he does testify, the way you think he's going to testify, is he gambling that Trump may win the election? And is he trying to get a pardon from a future President Trump? I mean, you just don't know what this guy's angle is, but I'm going to tell you something. I did a little bit of research on him, and it says that regarding extortion, okay, Avanatti's settlement offers in his suit against Nike became so overly aggressive that the prosecutors of the case contended that he was engaging in extortion. This is to settle a civil case. Nike had agreed to pay a coach damages to settle a case. However, Avanatti concealed this from the coach because the offer did not include attorney's fees. You've got to convey the settlement offer to your client. That's just ethics 101. You've got to convey all settlement offers in a criminal case or a civil case to the client, because they get to make the call, not the lawyer. So he was arrested in March of 2019. Federal prosecutors announced they were charging him with attempting to extort up to $25 million from Nike. And that's just on top of everything else, right? He's got tax evasion, embezzlement, and it looks like he technically got, he was 30 months, 4 years and a half concurrent for a financial crime against Stormy Daniels, who of course is also at the center of this. His former client might be a witness. We've got all these cases, Eric, that you just need I keep saying this, we need a whiteboard to keep it all straight, because everything, all the lines are so curvy, and we have so many different sort of paths that they could possibly go. And the players are so weird. I mean, in a normal criminal trial, everything is, you don't have these issues. This is just surreal how much just bizarre happenings that we have coming and going in all of these cases that
Well,
involve Donald Trump.
If it's a fantasy, don't you have surrealism? And by the way, I have one question about Avanatti. How the hell did Mark Garagos slip out of that? Because Mark Garagos was co-counsel with him on that whole Nike debacle, and he just somehow fluttered off to the side and managed to not get hit by any of the flack.
Well, I don't know. That's an excellent question, but your observation, I think, is spot on. Listen, when you've had a long career as a lawyer and you've represented a lot of high-profile, controversial figures, I think sometimes people just kind of, you're identified with that, and so it's not really all that surprising. But look, Avanatti was all over. I think he was about to be, if he hadn't been hired already by CNN as a contributor. He took this thing with Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump, and he milked it for all it was worth. And now for him to say that he conceivably might want to testify for Donald Trump, Trump says he smells a rat with Cohen. I smell a rat with Avanatti.
Oh, remember, Avanatti was going to be a presidential candidate against Trump. CNN was propping him up that much.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things, Eric, where we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I got a question for you as a non-lawyer, as a layperson. What are your thoughts about this case in New York with Donald Trump? Do you think this is going to help him politically? Do you think it's going to hurt him? What do you think? I mean, as long as people keep setting themselves on fire outside the courthouse, this is going to continue to be the biggest news story for the next several weeks. So, I mean, what do non-lawyers think about all this?
Well, Mark and I talked about this actually on Friday, and one of the big concerns is, why is he even sitting there? Mark's feeling, and I think he's a valid point, there's no way Trump is getting a fair trial here. We talked about this on Layback Law. I don't see how any jury in New York could possibly feel safe going against the narrative that's being put out there. We even had a juror already say, yeah, people found out that I was on that jury, so I can't give a fair judgment because what? As Tim Pool would say, low-level terrorism, Antifa, people like that who will harass with no problem anybody that's going against the narrative. So I think that's a giant problem. Second thing is, so now we have that locked in, and we've got a jury that pretty much is going to convict him. Ray Kay's right. One person supposedly is watching Truth Social. So there's a hope for a hung jury, I guess, if there's one person that's strong enough. I don't know. But the second he's convicted, do you think that judge is going to let him go? He's going to lock him up immediately. Then all of a sudden you have Trump going to Rikers Island. And while he claims I'll do Nelson Mandela, he's a little bit old for that.
Well, there's also talk about, and the question is, if he goes to, and look, I'm in the camp that I hear some people say, oh, there's just no way they're going to put Trump in jail. I'm not so sure. I think this judge would put him in jail if he gives him half a chance to do it. He wants him there.
He'll celebrate. He'll be celebrated.
It would be Rikers Island.
Even if Trump is in jail for 10 minutes, he will always be the guy who put the president of the United States in prison or in jail. Think about that. These are some egotistical, arrogant, narcissistic mofos. They will happily do whatever it takes. I mean, you had a traffic cop who said that Trump couldn't be on the, traffic court judge who said that Trump couldn't be on the ballot. I'm like, really? Day before the Supreme Court said, let's stop that bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's the question, okay, if you put him in jail, how does the Secret Service fit in? Well, now there's talk among Democrats in Washington about legislation to strip him of Secret Service protection in the event he gets convicted. They want him behind bars. They've wanted him behind bars since he first won in 2016. Now, let's be honest. They pulled him out of the White House in cuffs back then.
They not only want him behind bars, they want him Epsteined. That's the truth.
Well,
not all of them necessarily, but some of them would be very pleased if he never came out.
Well, I was, we were not supposed to be identifying the jurors, but somebody snuck me a picture of juror number 7.
Oh,
and I mean, I don't know if that's real or not, but juror number 7 just looks like someone that would not be all that fair and impartial. But anyway, speaking of Viva Fry and the Trump case, I noticed Viva on Twitter, and here's what he has to say. He says a lot of people are going to look really stupid if the evidence reveals that it was actually Stormy Daniels who is extorting Trump and not Trump trying to buy her silence, as explicitly suggested by Michael Avanatti. It will be especially interesting if the evidence reveals Michael Cohen and Stormy were having a relationship as journalists have alleged. And he screenshots there too. It looks like something from San Diego, something written by Ken Stone, dated yesterday, about the subject of it is that Michael Cohen was having an affair with Stormy Daniels since 2006, and that the hush money scheme was cooked up by Michael Cohen to extort the Trump organization before the 2016 election. Quote, Avanatti shared details of his client, Stormy Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, case, and the fact that her and Michael Cohen were actually having an affair since 2006. Source is Tony Siragusa on X.
It's possible. And, one interesting point about Stormy Daniels, and I'm not sure. I'm sure that Trump has no problems getting with women, but he does have a type. And you can see it through his marriages that Trump seems to like very especially Eastern European women of a particular type. And Stormy Daniels does not fit the normal type that he has. It's just an observation. Again, maybe, just a little variety, whatever. But I've also shared something, if you want to put that up on the screen, that I would think would be relevant to this case.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you have that. Let me make it big so that everybody can see it. Over the past few weeks, I've been asked countless times to comment on reports of an alleged sexual relationship I had with Donald Trump many, many years ago. The fact of the matter is that each party to the alleged affair denied its existence in, I think it says 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now again in 2018. I am not denying this affair because I was paid, quote, hush money, as has been reported in overseas on tabloids. I am denying this affair because it never happened. I will have no further comment on this matter. Please feel free to check me out on Instagram.
That's my favorite part, by the way. Oh, yeah. Check me out on Instagram.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, I mean, I think it's plausible. So I'm just carrying this out to its logical conclusion. If what she's saying there is true, what was the $100,000 and some odd that was supposedly the hush money paid to Cohen? Was that theft by Cohen?
I don't know. And again, I'm not sure what's going on, but if somebody has written a statement out there, does that not come into evidence? Does that not come? It's like, well, did it happen or didn't happen? You said it didn't happen. How many times? You just quoted, I said it this time. So now you're saying it's happened. Well, what are we talking about? You're a completely unreliable witness. Why are you here? But I'm speaking just as a jury member. I don't know.
Well, if you're a fair and impartial jury member, then yes, you would take that into consideration. Prior inconsistent statements of a witness are allowed. So in other words, if a witness takes the stand and says the sky is blue, and you have got a document or proof that previously said they had said that the sky was yellow, you can use their prior inconsistent statement to impeach, that is to show bias in their testimony, to show the jury that they blow hot and cold at the same time, so to speak, and therefore their testimony should not be believable. By the way, you can also impeach witnesses by proof that they have been convicted of a felony. And in this case, you got a lot of convicted felons that are potentially going to be witnesses in this case. So you got prior inconsistent, and Michael Cohen with the prior inconsistent statements, just to get those in is going to take a week and a half just to go through all of his prior inconsistent statements, I would imagine. So, you talked about the jury in this case and whether it can be fair. Trump won only 12%, I think, in the last election. And since then, a lot of people that might be more open-minded to an acquittal for Donald Trump, a lot of them, I suspect, have fled to free states like Florida and elsewhere since the last election. So I don't know if that 12% is still the case in terms of...
Oh, it's not, because there's another group too. Did you put this together? Passover week. The judge deliberately scheduled this so the Orthodox Jews, who are among the only people who like Trump in New York, couldn't attend. So he very handily cut out an entire community who actually supported Trump too.
Yeah, that's, well, I mean, if I were a conspiracy theorist or a cynic, I would say that there's, that's certainly, and I don't believe in coincidences, by the way. I think that that's probably spot on. And chat boss Megan, by the way, thank you. Megan has done a great job sort of keeping people straight in the chat, and I want to acknowledge that and thank her. But she comes up with a very great point here. They picked this jury in 4 days. I mean, it took Wednesday off, but they out of 500 jurors, more than half of them said, flat out they couldn't be fair, so they had to be excused. They picked a jury in the trial of the century so far in 4 days. Okay, it just, to me, doesn't make sense, because I was expecting jury selection to take weeks, because it should under the circumstances, because you got a lot of people with a lot of bias, in that jury pool. And so I don't understand how that makes sense. To me, it doesn't.
How is it even a charge? Like Dershowitz was talking about it and saying that there's not even a crime there.
Yeah, so I did it. That's a great point. And I would encourage people to check out a stream that I did a few days ago on the issue of the indictment and why I think it is defective. It charges, well, actually, I still have some things I can show you from that. So it charges this, there's this misdemeanor charge of falsifying a business record in the second degree. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the second degree with intent to defraud. By the way, intent to defraud, who's been defrauded here? I mean, there's no victim. Record. There's just no victim here.
What's a business record?
All right. So anyway, nevertheless, if you make or cause a false entry in the business record of an enterprise or race, alter, obliterate, delete, remove, omits to make a true entry, so on and so forth, that's a Class A misdemeanor, which has a 2-year statute of limitations. And even if you factor in the 12 months that the statute of limitations were sort of extended due to the COVID judicial emergency, that statute of limitations ran sometime around 2020. Now, what they've done is they've bootstrapped in this New York, it says the penal law 175.10, a person's this is the felony version. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree, which is the misdemeanor, when his intent to defraud, again, we have no victim here, people.
What was the crime?
Right. Anyway, here it says when you have, first off, if you have intent to defraud, and an intent to commit another crime, okay, that would bootstrap in, that would make it a felony. But here, the indictment doesn't say it. It says just vaguely that he had the intent to commit another crime, and it doesn't specify what that other crime is, and so it doesn't put the defendant on notice of what the hell he's supposed to defend himself against. On its face, Eric, for all the reasons I explained in that other stream, and I want people to go back and check it out because it's pretty thorough. They don't it doesn't pass the smell test, but it doesn't pass the constitutional test of due process because it doesn't put the defendant or his lawyers on notice of how the hell they're supposed to defend it. Ashley Merchant was in here that night, and she weighed in on it, and she made a very, very, very good point because it has 36 counts that are worded very similarly. And because it doesn't specify which other crime that he's supposed to have violated, he could go to this trial, theoretically be found not guilty of every one of them. And then they could indict him the next day with an identically worded indictment and say that it's not double jeopardy because they're talking about something else.
This feels like the whole RICO bullshit.
It is bullshit.
That's all. Everything is like so tangentially tied that they're feverishly making this up, and just the charges themselves to me prove coordination at a higher level of here, go after him, get Trump, do this, do this, do this, do this. Was it Berea? You point them in, I'll find the charge, or whatever that statement is. It really, it just doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't. And there's two lawyers on the jury. Okay. And I personally don't like lawyers on juries when I have a case, because the lawyers may not necessarily know the first damn thing about criminal law. In fact, in this case, I don't think either one of them is a criminal lawyer or even maybe has any experience in it, but they get in the jury room and the rest of the jurors are going to turn to them. But look, you've seen it on Fridays on your laid back law show. A lot of times lawyers can't agree on stuff, right? And so
no, I depend on that.
Yeah, you depend on it. And so if that goes on in the jury room, maybe that creates enough confusion that there could be at least reasonable doubt for one or two of them. I am of the mindset that Trump cannot win an acquittal on this case. That's a foregone conclusion. His best hope is for a hung jury, because if his attorneys can convince the attorneys on that jury that for legal reasons this indictment doesn't work, and why the hell the judge hadn't tossed it, I don't know, but it shouldn't have gotten this far. It's absolutely insane that it has. This is it makes a mockery of the legal system, to be honest with you. Alvin Bragg should be not only ashamed because he's destroyed public confidence and faith, him and Fonny Willis and others in the legal system. And if you can't trust the result of what happens in this case, history will look back on us in ways that we should be ashamed of. And by we, I mean American society, because we have allowed this kind of crap to go on. It's just ridiculous. And
what about Kleinsmith, by the way? What about Kleinsmith? The dude actually is convicted. Where is he now? Oh, he's practicing law and celebrated.
Yeah,
so this is going on. It went all the way back while Trump was in office. That they're going after him. They'll use any means possible. And Alvin Bragg is being celebrated by his peers.
So this is John points out that he's correct. Keeps him from campaigning.
Yes.
Dershowitz says the New York statute that forces him to be in the courtroom every day is unconstitutional. I don't know that's the case. Judges do have discretion. Look, in criminal cases across the United States, the rule is that in a criminal case, the defendant's got to be in the courtroom for trial. The judge has discretion to let him leave. But for the judge to even imply that he's not going to let him leave, when the man asked to go, say, Judge, my son's graduation's coming up. I'd like to have you be aware of that date so we can work around it. The judge should have just said, absolutely, we'll work around that. That's important. The judge had the discretion, but the judge didn't grant the request. He hasn't officially denied it, but he should have just said right then, yes, sir, we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we mark that, we note it, and we'll do everything possible so that you can go to your son's graduation. That's what he should have done. But when he didn't, it showed me that he's got bias. And another thing that showed me he's got bias is when the judge, that they filed a motion for him to be recused from the case on the grounds of bias. And instead of sending it to another judge to decide the issue, he decided it himself. You can't grade your own paper. even in grammar school, we passed the paper to our neighbor across the aisle, and the teacher went over the answers, and so somebody else graded your paper. And so that's the way it should have happened. And because it didn't happen, now everybody is wondering, is this judge in fact biased? And a lot of people are certain that he's biased, but he should have had another judge objectively make that determination.
As if you don't think he's biased. Of course he's biased. The guy's he's deeply, deeply into it. And that's what the question Mark was bringing up too, is should Trump even be in the courtroom? Mark is taking the stance of go fly back to Florida, just campaign everywhere else in the country and say, yeah, come get me. What are you going to do?
Well, the judge will lock him up if he does. I mean,
how's he going to do that if he's not in the state? That judge doesn't have federal jurisdiction. He's got to get a cooperative state.
He can issue a state warrant for failure to appear and order the bond be revoked. And an arrest warrant gets issued. And then when a person is located in another state, they do what's called a fugitive warrant. And there's a process that happens a lot. People, lately they leave court. I had a case in my jurisdiction just the other day. A guy fled during the next to the last day of a trial. Jury convicted him. And so he's in the wind, and eventually there can be an extradition. So they could issue an arrest warrant that could cause him a lot of problems.
If the governors cooperate, if the states cooperate. And the reason why it was even being brought up is you're a big JFK fan, right?
Yeah.
Well, when Jim Garrison was trying to get the witnesses and pull everybody else, he was told to pound sand. Ronald Reagan himself, the hero, Ronald Reagan, was like, nah, nope, too bad. Not sending anybody. Don't care.
Well, if he goes to Florida, so Ron DeSantis would have to be involved in the extradition process because it's called a governor's warrant. When somebody is located in another state, let's say that first off, they have to be arrested in that state, and then they're jailed in the state where they're located. And then if they don't waive extradition, you go through the formal process that involves governors. That's when the governor's offices do get involved at that point. I still say if he were my client, I would advise against it. But
well, you're a lawyer, because it'd be unethical to ever advise as a lawyer. But as an idiot on YouTube, we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I understand you're being ethical. That's fine.
Hey, speaking of on YouTube, I see there's almost 1,000 people in here. That's awesome. If y'all don't mind, please, real quick, hit that like button, because as Eric will tell you, that makes a big difference. It certainly helps, and it won't cost you anything, but also, the super chats, we've got members that are new members. Thank you to all those folks. If you like the content on this channel, there's some links in the description on the show page that you can visit to help support the channel that will help continue to bring this kind of content and even bring better and more of it. So please feel free to check that out. Let's see, I've got a comment from, this is Eric. This is a retired senior chief machinist mate from the submarine services. You were a Navy guy, right?
Nope. Army.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to insult you. All right. Well, I was Navy, but you are a military veteran. So, senior chief, very, very senior enlisted. And I tell you, speaking of being confined in a courtroom, I don't know how people, I would be claustrophobic in a submarine. So I've got a lot of respect for senior chief for that reason alone. These are all reasons why they are after the First and the Second Amendment. And I think senior chief makes a very good point. Our rights are being eroded just a little bit at the time. I mean, they're chipping away. It would take a constitutional amendment, of course, to do away with them completely. But the courts, in the way they interpret these things over time, just look at the Fourth Amendment. There is barely a Fourth Amendment left. What's left of it is on life support, and it's not looking good long term. For the Fourth Amendment. So the courts have a way of chipping away at these things bit by bit.
And then we go for it, though. I mean, keep this in mind, and I hope everybody does this, consider this. Remember, 9/11 happened, and obviously we're not a fan of terrorists. It was horrible, everything else. But they used that to drive in the Patriot Act, which was nothing more than a big government spy mechanism on everyone. And you know what? If you dare question it, obviously you support terrorism, because they play that game. Now, fast forward to the future, there's all kinds of surveillance, etc., and they wrap it all in CP. People look that up. You know what it is, but it's pictures of children and bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say, hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this surveillance. They'll say, oh, so you support CP, huh? And keep slipping it down the line. And I'm very concerned about it, because a lot of times while they're taking our rights away, we're cheering. This whole TikTok sales got me concerned. It's like, yeah, okay, nobody likes TikTok. There's big problems there. But if you read into it, it's kind of broadly based. And it's not going to stop with just TikTok. It's going to stop with whatever they don't like.
This is true. We're pushing an hour, and I know a lot of folks are probably going to go check out Viva coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So we can go ahead and start to wrap up. But before we do, Eric, I've got some, I had somebody sneak me some video from the jury selection the other day, and I want to just get your thoughts on it.
Man, can I get the water or something? I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go to sleep on y'all now. I ain't gonna tell you no lie.
Yes, you may. We're gonna take a break soon. Hang on.
I love honest defendant or honest witnesses.
This was a state's star, one of the star witnesses for the state in the Fonny Willis prosecution of our rapper here in Atlanta named Young Thug. And that was from a couple of weeks ago. But that guy, here's the thing. This is what prosecutors go. This is the link they will go to if they want to get you. They will put people on the stand like these clowns that we're going to see on the stand in New York, people that are high and under the influence of drugs and alcohol, whose testimony just can't be relied on in order to imprison people.
Snitches, cellmates as well. I mean, how many jailhouse?
Yeah.
Because God only knows, just because you're in a cell with them, it's like, oh, here's my opportunity. Hey, they told me this.
Well, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. We got opening statements tomorrow. We're going to all be, I would say we'd be watching, but the judge won't let cameras in the court. So we're going to have to rely on what journalists tell us happened in there. So get your information from lots of sources. Don't just rely on one, because you may not hear it being accurately reported. But in any event, I'm sure we'll all be talking about it and we'll be watching it, because this truly is a historic trial. Eric, buddy, thank you so much for taking the time to come inside the law today. I really, really appreciate it.
Happy to be here, dude.
All right. And so we're going to say goodbye to Eric. And I want to go ahead and say once again to everybody here, thank you so very much. I'm very honored by the support. I just can't say that enough. I really appreciate all of you. And I look forward to being able to go over this case with you. We're going to try to jump in either with live streams or maybe with shorts or even recorded videos. I'm going to do my best to try to stay on this channel and give you at least my take on things as it happens. But we're going to have a lot coming at us. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I'm ready to do it in any way that I can, because you really can't trust the way I think a lot in the media will describe to you what's been happening. And I'm not necessarily the expert or the final word on a lot of this stuff either. But if you want to hear what I think about it, stay tuned to this channel. Make sure you subscribe. Tell everybody else to subscribe. Thank you for supporting the channel. And I will do whatever I can to keep things updated as the weeks progress, not only with the Donald Trump case, but with anything else that comes up. Because here inside the law, what we do is we use the cases that are in the news to bring you the real criminal justice system. And so until next time, I look forward to seeing you right back here inside the law.